Welcome to the Rabia and Sana Show. We're two Desi girls reinventing cultural norms with love to make difficult conversations easier to help you take courageous steps faster.
Whether you feel like a misfit now or have been breaking the standards, this podcast is for you, for the adults, the young. Come as you be and become your authentic self as you desire. Let's go reinvent some cultural norms together.
Hello everyone, I am Rabia. I have been a rebel without a cause for most of my life until I discovered my purpose to empower women to empower themselves. And that led me down a rabbit hole to become a life coach from CTI Coactive Coaching. And today I'm a mind and life power coach who helps people break free of their limiting cultural beliefs to find the life they love and the love of their life.
Hello everyone, I am Sana. I am from New Jersey, a Pakistani American. Professionally, I work in the clinical research field. And personally, I have always had this purpose of empowering women of South Asian culture to be able to live the life that they want to live and be true to themselves instead of what the culture expects them to be. And so here I am pursuing that purpose, and I am also studying to become a life coach. Let's get started.
Hi, everyone. I'm so happy that you're here. It's always amazing to have everyone here. So we're just doing a room, as we do every week on Sundays, about reinventing cultural norms. And just this past Friday, Sana and I celebrated Eid, and we thought, let's talk about it. Let's talk about Eid and what we can embrace and what we can reinvent. So I'm going to pass the mic over to Sana, and I'm going to let her take over.
Thank you so much, Rabia. Hello, everyone. Tonight, we wanted to talk about embracing and reinventing cultural norms. So, not all cultural norms need to be reinvented. Some of them are actually some really nice practices. And because it is our culture, because we have been raised in it, we want to embrace them. We want to accept the way it is instead of fighting back on everything and understanding them and then embracing them. The ones that are not harmful or the ones that we agree with and we want to live our lives that way. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight, embracing and reinventing the cultural norms. And then Eid edition. So Eid is a Muslim holiday, which was this past Friday. It is the celebration of the end of the holy month of Ramadan, in which the Muslims fast for 30 days from sunrise to sunset. And at the end of it, we celebrate a holiday. It's called Eid. So we wanted to also talk about some of the double standards that come with celebrations in our culture a lot of the times. Yeah, so let's start talking about this topic and see what do you guys think about embracing and reinventing cultural norms. So there's two big Muslim holidays. There's two Eid. One is this one, which is the end of Ramadan, and there another one, which is this year is going to be end of June, which is when they do the pilgrimage, and that's also the second biggest holiday. But I feel, or I think in my family, this one was celebrated more than the other one. And I think it's because we do 30 days of fasting and it's just like, we deserve a celebration at the end of it. And so this one always felt a little bit bigger to me.
Eid is equivalent to our Christmas, and both of them have their uniquenesses. So there's Eid al-Fitr and Eid al-Adha. And Eid al-Adha is where we sacrifice the animal, and it's more about the sacrifice after the pilgrimage, after Hajj. And then this one is about fasting. And I think there are two components to the fasting in Ramadan. I think one part is actually the fasting. And I think the second part is abstinence from certain thoughts. I think it's much more spiritual and mindful. It's almost like a detox. And I think that's really important because it helps us to really get down to the basics of what is really important. And over the years, when I was a child, we would get really excited about Ramadan, really, really excited. And we would want to fast. And when I was a kid, we had 18-hour fasts. in Toronto, Canada, the sunrise would be at 4:30 a.m. and we would be breaking our fast at quarter to 10. Like they were long days. We were so excited. It was the adrenaline that was actually making us want to do it. So I just thought that we lose the essence of why we're doing it. And so I embrace the actual concept of Ramadan. But like anything, we become immune to things. We become less appreciative of things. And so this year, what I did do was really connect with myself and with the spirit of the occasion, with the understanding that I can be and do. I just don't have to do. And it comes back to what we always talk about, the being and doing. I just love the family aspect, the community aspect, and because what I believe is that people are much more judgmental and God is much more forgiving. Those are just some of my thoughts.
Yeah, I just want to add a little bit that for me too, I love the community and the family aspect of it. And it's really about, it's just like an excuse to give up our normal daily year round activities and sort of get together with everyone and to give charity more and to just do good and try to really practice all of the good values that we have. And, you know, we should really be doing that stuff all year round, but it's just, it kind of like when everyone is around you is doing it and it's kind of is like a great reminder to do it even more. And this year, I wanted to support my kids because my kids were fasting.
Sana, you just talked about zakat, which is that charitable giving. Ramadan is great because although it's forced in a way, but I think giving charity is so good. We sometimes forget to do it on our own. And so it is that mindfulness where it's a discipline that teaching us how to give, but it's not mandatory, Sana, for everyone. Is it 2% of assets? Is that what it is?
Yeah, there's a certain asset, but also in general, also during the month of Ramadan, it's recommended to like, you know, give more charity just as extra good deed.
I think there's a lot of good, and I actually embrace those things. And I also love the part of Ramadan and what what we've been taught is that there is no force. There are always ways to do things. And I think I love that about there's no one way. And I think people tend to make it about one way, which I always have a disagreement with.
Yeah, they do. And there's all that good aspect of Ramadan, right? Where we have, you know, we're getting together, we're getting community, and we're all like doing dinners together, breaking fast together, and things like that. But there's also that double standard that comes with it, in which people are judging each other as well. And it's like, oh, this was the holy month. And what did you do in this holy month? How well did you perform? Like the religious activities, how much did you pray during your fast, or that your fast is not really a fast because you didn't do enough good deeds. And so there's that aspect of Ramadan as well, which, you know, Rabia and I were talking about earlier, how it is a double standard in our culture, where the culture takes what the religion taught us for this month to do, but add the judgments to it and add on things like, what are you wearing? And this is supposed to be a religious month. You're not supposed to be wearing that. Or that, oh, you shouldn't even be celebrating the end of the month because, hey, you didn't fast. And so there's so many of those judgments and double standards happen in our culture because of this during the month of Ramadan and Eid. What do you think of that, Rabia?
Oh my goodness, double standard. Yeah, I think there's a lot of judgment. I think there is a double standard. It is typical of the culture to have this double standard. And I think there's a lot of shaming going on. I would boil it down to shaming. And I'm a part of a group chat. And in that, there was a post. If you're sick and you can't fast, then you can pay for someone else to eat every day for 30 days. I think it's $10 a day, so for the month, it's $300, 30 days. If you purposely don't fast, it was $30 a day. So at the end of the month, it's $600. And I'm thinking, I'm not embracing this. I consider this forced religion. And I'm thinking, what happened to free will and free mind? And what happened to spirit? And what happened to those people that are doing good but are not being recognized for their good? I went to Reviving the Islamic Spirit conference a few years ago. And I've never felt more Muslim than that one day, because when I went there, what they talked about was it was okay to give into temptation. They didn't make it wrong. They said it was okay. They said that it's natural, which is why it's okay. And I think it's so important that we not make anyone feel less in this month of Ramadan. And also, I just didn't like the fact that, you have to pay. And free will, I think, is also very important. So yeah, Sana, those are my thoughts on what you have shared about the double standard. And I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but that just came up as we're here.
Thanks, Rabia. And yeah, having to pay, it just doesn't it make it seem like where's that money going? Is that money going to God and making my sin of not fasting go away? I don't understand the paying aspect of it. But yeah, I think it was a little more than $30, Rabia, because when we did the math the other night, it came out to like 3,300, I think, for the month. I totally understand what you're saying about the blame. Also the hypocrisy that comes with it when they say you do anything you want to do all year round. But if you do it during the month, then you're even more bad. So it's so many different myths and theories that have been created in the culture for the month. It's just so much of the backlash, and the people who are already feel like that the culture, so many other different things of our culture, but which don't make sense, and we already feel like misfits in them. This adds on because this is comes from a religious aspect, and so this makes us feel even more guilty. Like it would make me feel really guilty that because it's religious, it's not culture, but because it's religion taught. And I used to feel like I have to absolutely do it, but doing it and not really feeling it, like doing it because of a force. It didn't feel that religious to me, and it didn't feel like something that I was deeply committed to because it felt forced.
I'm going to give my excerpt. When I was in the Eastern Orthodox Church, I converted back in, I think it was 2010, maybe it was a little sooner than that. And I went to a monastery and I observed all the feast days and fast days. And it was very, very powerful for me because I was in the Pentecostal tradition, and stoicism and the essence of being sober in mind and emotion to access the God, if you will, was something foreign to me. So that the whole structure and order of the feast days and things it was very romantic at first, and then it was very legalistic at the end, and I wound up disavowing and becoming a perennial philosophist. The perennial philosophy is simply stating that, there's a golden thread of truth in every form of spirituality, religion, whatever one would call it, because there's a axiom. It states no one is wrong 100% of the time. And that was revolutionary for me. It's like, wow, okay, so there's that. So now what do I do? And within this context, to embrace and reinvent cultural norms, I see all of these as like seeds. They're all very important foundational stones that lead to a path. The path is the way, and the way is not something that is legalistic. It's a natural, free-flowing expression of the spirit. And as that manifests, as one is on that path, it will reveal itself. And it's not going to look the same for everyone, nor should it. And within that context, to allow someone to explore their own path is the greatest expression of love. Even if it's a path that one knows is going to lead towards a lot of pain, that pain is so very important because it teaches that that's not the way. And when someone is tired of the pain, hopefully they get tired of the pain. That's when the real growth takes place, because the growth is optional. It's not something. Some people fall in love with the pain. Some people, I know for myself, there was a few years there where it was this benign, oh, it feels so good to hurt, and then it's like, well, this is stupid. This isn't doing anything. And then within that context, I grew. I chose to grow. So out of that, redefining the norms and reinventing cultural norms, I don't know if I could ever reinvent things that help people progress along their path. But what I will say is I'm reinventing, or rather allowing the expressionings that people have within these paths, on their paths, to just be. to exist simultaneously with the truth, the way, the all, understanding and understanding that this is all part of the expressions of this incarnation, of this school that we come to learn the lessons that beckon us to grow. And growth is really the goal, not perfection, not legalism. It's about the growth. And that's the importance of these traditions as I see them. They're not really necessary for any other reason save to teach one perhaps austerity or growth in those areas of life where one may be a little bit lazy or apathetic. It's just like a tool set. So in that respect, in that regard, they're very important. They need not be the end all be all. That's just foolish. That's silly. It's laughable.
I loved your share. First of all, making everyone feel important and seen, I thought is a big part of embracing the cultural norms. I think that that's sometimes we feel excluded. So I love that you said that no one is wrong 100% of the time. I think I really love that. Not I think, I know I love that. And the second thing I really loved what you said is that, pain isn't optional, pain is inevitable. But growth is optional. So I've heard that phrase, pain is inevitable and suffering is optional. But I love this new take on that, which is growth is optional. We get to choose whether we heal, whether we work on ourselves, whether we allow ourselves to feel and grow. We get to choose that, but we don't get to choose the pain. And that, for me, that's a wow. That's a wow moment. Thanks so much for that. And I'll hand off to Sana. I would love to hear what she has picked up as well.
Thank you so much, Satwa, for sharing. That was really, really nice. I was just thinking that at the end when you said the cultural norms don't have to be our end all be all. And that's actually one of the things that Rabia said in one of our episodes from the podcast. And we posted that quote on our Instagram page. So I was just remembering that. And that is so true that, I totally understand that part of it, that how it brings structure and disciplining and rules and stuff to the society. But that growth that you were saying, that growth, I feel like gets limited when when we feel like that we have to follow the cultural norms. And so they kind of sometimes prevent us from growing because you have to do things a certain way because it's a little too much discipline. And I think for me, the biggest struggle was not knowing that there is a choice to not follow. And that was the biggest hurdle for me to get over. And I think a lot of us face that because we don't know that we can do things differently. Like we can grow, we can say no, we can choose something differently, and just following it and feeling like you don't belong. It's
Yes.
like just the
May
hardest
I?
feeling. Sure,
May
sure,
I?
go ahead.
Thank you. That's the biggest part I found when I was disavowing from the faith, quote unquote, that was forced to me, essentially handed to me. And I'm grateful for it. Please don't mistake what I'm saying. The authority that I took for my own life was something that no one taught me how to do. It was like, hey, something is calling out inside of me to go this path. And it was very frightening because obviously one becomes anathema, one becomes a heretic to whatever the faith tradition is. For me, it was Christianity. And I chose that path very, very consciously, knowing that I was going to be ostracized. And I was. And it was very painful. What it taught was that the authority that one walks by is the ultimate authority. No one can give that to one except oneself. And that's the greatest gift that we could ever give to ourselves and then to others. That's true authority. That's just being. That's the beingness of life. And we don't own that, but that's a gift that we give to ourselves. And that's really how we can give truly from an abundance to other people. Thanks. That's just something that you had elicited inside of me, Sana.
I loved the three things that you said: the voice, the spirit, and your heart. Those three things are profound. I think that we definitely live more through those avenues. The other thing I loved what you said is you're done listening and you just want to live and be. And I think that's one of the most pivotal and important aspects of coming into ourselves, and also coming from a place of knowing that we have that heart, that voice, and that spirit to be. And we can be that whole person that we are without worrying about what others think. And I think the other thing I'm learning as I'm going is that we never question each other on the what and why, what we want and why we do things. We always question each other on the how we do it, on how we find happiness, on how we find peace, on how we find our healing, on how we do things. And I think that is a recipe for disaster. First of all, no one knows themselves better than themselves. No one can possibly know me better than I know me. No one can possibly know each of you better than you know yourselves. So, how can I tell you how to do things? And I think free will and the freedom of choice and the vastness of learning and being and practicing and disciplining ourselves is so important. And it brings me back to something that Sana said, which is that discipline, right, is sometimes seen as force. And is it really encouraging growth, or is it encouraging complacency? And that is something that we can all ponder for ourselves. I'm not here to tell you the answer to that. I think it's so important for all of us to really go into that and understand it for ourselves. There are many cultural norms that must be embraced. I think there is the important foundation of our culture, which the South Asian culture in particular is of collectivism. It's of interpersonal relationships. It's about giving respect. But I think where we draw the line is where that becomes unhealthy and where that is used for the advantage of some and not for the benefit of all. And so why we want to reinvent cultural norms is so we create a space where everyone receives a benefit and we live with love and understanding and compassion and empathy versus discipline or dictation and authority and conformism, if that's a word. So, those are some things that we are going to be tackling on our podcast. Darby, I would love to hear from you.
I think the main thing that I'm gathering is that it keeps going back to we're more similar than we are different. And we're all neighbors and all cousins in this world. We're brothers and sisters in this world. And no matter how we choose to express ourselves in our personal lives, in religion, spirituality, or anything like that, we can come together and support each other in our commonalities.
I love that we have more things in common than we have differences, and how we do things is personal. What we do and how it impacts each other, I think, does become personal. And I think embracing these differences by saying, how do we be? And sometimes we can disagree on the how, but I do believe that if we start talking about the what's and the whys, I do believe that we're all attaining happiness, peace, inner peace, and love and freedom. I think we can all agree on those things. And I think how we find them is so personal. So, yeah, I was thinking of Nusrat Fateh Ali. For those of you who don't know him, he is a singer, but I was thinking of the Maskalandar.
Nusrat is my Elvis.
Oh, wow. Cool. I would love to hear your thoughts on embracing and or reinventing cultural norms, what you've heard so far. And first of all, or perhaps in the middle, Eid Mubarak to everyone who is celebrating Eid and who's observed their fast. So I just want to acknowledge everyone because we do embrace all and we want to reinvent some. So Paul, over to you.
Well, just I'll pick up there. What I really liked about this year is the season of so many of the world religions have significance that overlapped. And that was a great opportunity, as other people have said, to see our similarities. And of course, in Ramadan, when the gates of so-called hell or evil are locked tight and the gates of heaven are wide open for introspection to kind of go into the winter of our bodies, where we sleep and store, for the next reflective spring. And then, of course, depending which version of the Eid you do, it's a kind of a release. It's kind of like celebratory that we learned, we made through it all. I think it's just absolutely wonderful, wonderful, beautiful. But I'm not going to say any more. Listen to this that was done with Michael Brooks. And unfortunately, I will say this, I don't understand all the Urdu, but I'm pretty sure that Michael Brooks chopped it up in some nonsensical ways, but the groove is just so good. So here we go.
Amazing.
I don't know about any of you, but I need a cigarette after that.
That was amazing. Well, if you have a cigarette handy or a cigar handy, please feel free to have one. But I loved that. It puts you into a zone, and I was completely there. And I've actually met Nusrat Fateh Ali in person live in Karachi, and it was quite the experience seeing him perform live that particular song, as well as many of his others, and also having the opportunity to actually speak to him. It was quite a surreal moment. So thanks so much for that, Paul. Really, really appreciate that.
You met him. I'm still letting that sink in. Ugh.
So interesting. The wedding was over, and there was those fold out chairs that we have in our gardens. There was a fold out chair that was by the door. He was waiting for his ride. I just happened to be standing next to him and had the opportunity of speaking to him for a few minutes. So just an incredible singer, a talented singer. But he has, I think, changed how culture is in Pakistan when it comes to this music. And so embracing and reinventing cultural norms, Qawwali is something that is a part of our culture and religion. It's a Sufi or spiritual aspect of the religion. But what he's done with it, and his proteges have done with it since him, I think is profound. And, Nusrat Fateh Ali is quite the performer, quite the artist, and sort of fits into embracing and reinventing cultural norms. And so I just wanted to say thank you for playing that for us.
Rabia, do you know what the first song I ever heard by him was? It was that kind of almost pop song beginning, the Ye Yo Halka Halka Saura Hai.
ये जो हल्का हल्का सरूर है,
Yeah.
तेरी नजरों का कसूर है. I think that's beautiful. I love that song. So, Anne, we'll come to you. What are your thoughts on the music, on the cultural norms? Which ones would you like to reinvent? Which ones are you embracing? It's just an Eid light edition tonight, just a chit chat and fun time.
I love the music. I'm not familiar with it. It has like an interesting groove because I'm all about the beat. What I'd like to see change, I mean, as you know, I'm Jewish, but I mean, if you go back to a lot of the religions, they're very male dominated, male driven.
Patriarchal.
Yeah. I mean, if you go into different sects or chapters or whatever, sectors of reform, and then you'll see like women rabbis and different things. But even if you break it down, it's very man, driven and very old school that way, like the 50s. You know what I mean?
Get it. And I think Darby gets it too. So, Darby, over to you.
And I understand what you're talking about. I grew up Christian, in Christian churches, but for 10 years of my life, from when I was 7 to 17, I was a member of the Jewish Community Center in New Orleans. And I was 8, I wanted to convert because all my friends were Jewish, and it was a wonderful thing for me. And my mother told me to wait until I was older, and I didn't understand because everybody was doing their bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs. And I think that really taught me some things about cultural differences, but I didn't see them as different. I saw them as my friends. And I still see people as my friends no matter what they believe.
I just had a question for Darby. I was just curious to know if Darby did you ever convert after you got older?
No, I consider myself Christian, but when I was young, and I think y'all will maybe agree to have had the same experience, religion was very expected, disciplined. It was the way you were because that's the way your family was and your friends and everybody around you. And you just did it, and it was very dogmatic, and it was very legalistic. And you didn't really have a choice of the way you did things if your family practiced a certain religion. And I think growing older, I think there's a very big difference between religion and spirituality. And I think religion is man-made, and woman's interpretation, human's interpretation of God. And I think spirituality, religion opens the door, but I think spirituality is your actual relationship with God and how you experience God personally. And that's really where I am. And I think that people can have religious experiences and have spiritual experiences and blend the two and get the best of both worlds. Some people don't ever have any religious experience and they just have spiritual experiences. So really, everybody's experience with religion, spirituality is unique.
And valid. I think unique, yes, and valid as well. I just want to bring that one point that no matter what someone experiences, no one else can say to them and offer them an alternative. I think what they go through, what they discover, what they experience, and their connection to Source, God, the universe, Allah, and or you name it, whatever it is for you. Who am I to tell you it's right or wrong? How you do.
Religion does teach us. Religion does teach us to judge, though, and that's where you have to get away from to really understand things.
Right,
You can't
absolutely.
be you can't be closed-minded about somebody that may
Absolutely.
be different from you, because they can have something so valuable to you that you've been searching for.
Right. And I think that when we're talking about embracing and reinventing cultural norms, I think embracing is about recognizing the differences and embracing them versus judging them. And reinventing is personal. That reinventing aspect might be more spiritual, and the embracing might be more cognitive, might be more intellectual. Because who am I to tell you how to find your peace? Who am I to tell another Christian, Muslim, Hindu, agnostic, atheist how to find their peace? All I want is everyone to find it. I'm not going to tell you how, but I will encourage that you find it. And so maybe I'll just put that out to all of you, is how do you find your peace? What are you embracing? And what are you reinventing for yourself? Because this is not about you telling me what to do. I think essentially embracing and reinventing cultural norms is so personal that we can't be in that position to tell each other what to do and how to do it. And Paul also added is that it's quite incredible how all the religions aligned this year. And so I think that really goes to show you that there is a lot of synergy and alignment happening right now. And I think that's what we need to embrace. And Vanita, Mike is yours.
Hello, everyone. Eid Mubarak to all that celebrate. And yeah, what a beautiful conversation. I've had I would say, an unusual childhood, but like it really great for me because the way I grew up in many different countries, many different cultures. And even though I was Hindu, my parents didn't really force anything upon us. They were just sort of like, we're Hindu, but it was more like focusing on all the cultural things that we do to celebrate all of those things, to share about those things. So as a child going through that experience, what I loved about the way that I grew up is our parents taught us, exposed us, and had us celebrate everything. So everything and any place that was a big deal to the people there, we would celebrate. So it was just really beautiful and powerful because, without even like putting attention on it, it just kind of created the space as a child to just embrace it all. Like everyone's traditions are beautiful, everyone's things are beautiful. Like you just took it all in and had respect for everything. And so for me, that's how it's always been. And even to this day, when people are like, well, what do you celebrate? I'm like, what do you mean? I celebrate everything. So for me, it is. That's just part of what it is for me personally. And so I'm very grateful to have had that exposure where I was able to experience so much. And because of that, it just keeps me very open to everybody's traditions and cultures and practices, and to be able to join and participate and learn, and then also share about like what are the things that I celebrate. So it's really beautiful experience. So I really love what this room is all about. And I know music is a big part of it. And I was very fortunate because of the work that my dad did, that I did get to meet a lot of artists and musicians, both from India and Pakistan, and obviously in all the places that we lived in. So, how music ties into it. I think for me, the only thing that was always a little bit challenging, but I'm so glad it kind of worked out for me, is that I never quite understood religion as a child. Like for me, even as a young kid with little to no understanding, I just never understood it, because I always felt that if it's about bringing people together, religion is separating people, because they're saying that, their religion is better. If you're not part of this religion, then, you're not going to go to heaven. And I remember those conversations, and it always confused me, and it stuck with me even, to this day. So when people would ask me, I would always just say, I said, I'm just a really spiritual person. And I didn't necessarily even know what that meant, but I chose to say that because I didn't want to attach myself to a religion. And obviously, as an adult, I understood more. So I'm like, I don't even know how I knew that, but somehow my inner being just knew that that's what felt right for me. And now that I'm very deep in my own spiritual journey, it's all kind of like lining up for me. So that's what's worked for me. And I'm just super grateful to have had the opportunity to enjoy and learn from so many other cultures and people. And I hold that very dear to my heart. Thank you for letting me share.
Yeah, beautiful, Vanita. I love the diversity of your experience, and also, there's this inner sense and that sixth sense that sort of directs you to a place of acceptance and love and more oneness. And I love that, because so here's my take on, as I've been embracing and reinventing cultural norms. Here's a little bit of my journey. Initially, it started off as I was just floating around in this world, told I was Muslim, but not really connecting with what I was told. And then I had a breakdown, as you've all heard in many different spaces, and I'm not going to go into the breakdown. And then as I began to rise up and to come into myself, my initial path was very mindset oriented, very skill set oriented. Develop what you do, and your mindset will change and you will become. And in exploring that space, I also stumbled onto spirituality. I love Rumi. Rumi and I go back, I think, centuries. What he talks about, the poems that he's written, the verses always speak to me very deeply. What you seek is seeking you. That wrongdoing and right doing, somewhere over there, let's meet. And, I'm just paraphrasing there. But everything that Jalaluddin Rumi spoke about. So I began to go into this world of Rumi and Sufism. That's very spiritual. And then I met a Jewish man whose best friend was a poet and a storyteller. And all he did was tell stories from Rumi and Attar. And so that's where I found myself constantly listening to Conference of the Bird and the Masnavis and so many stories of Rumi. And my mother went to Turkey, and she went to where Rumi was born, and she brings me back a stack of books with the poems, Rumi's writings. Rumi had two loves. His first love was God, and his second love was Rabia. So I'm developing this spiritual journey. And this is what I found about spirituality. I found that spirituality is no different than religion, most parts. Most parts. From the spiritual people I met, there was always a judgment about the ones that were religious. And the religious people I met, there was always a judgment about everyone else. So I was moving down this path of spirituality, and I'm like, that's not me. If I'm calling someone wrong, it makes me no different, regardless of which side I'm on. So I decided to take a step back from spirituality. I don't know what I am right now. I don't know the term, but I know that I'm not judgmental. And I know that I'm all embracing. And I believe that the actual essence of all religions and all spiritual beings is this. But I don't want to be labeled it, because what I see from the labels is not me. And so that's what I'm reinventing, actually. I am reinventing this non judgmental being that embraces all and is reinventing the way we perceive each other, not necessarily how we live and what we do. So that's in a nutshell for tonight, based on this Eid conversation. That's where I'm at. And so, love to
Rabia,
hear.
you mentioned Jalaluddin Rumi, and you forgot his one, you can call him a lover, his great friend Shams of Tabriz. And this only takes a couple minutes, but I'm going to share one of my many favorite little verses of Rumi. These are the ones that are translated by Coleman Barks, and it goes to the heart of everything: our relationship to ourselves, to God, to life, to each other, or to a great friend or lover. And begins thusly. In the early morning hour, just before dawn, lover and beloved wake and take a drink of water. She asks, "Do you love me or yourself more? Really, tell the absolute truth." He says, "There's nothing left of me. I'm like a ruby held up to the sunrise. Is it still a stone or a world made of redness?" This is how Halaj said, "I am God," and told the truth. The ruby and the sunrise are one. Be courageous and discipline yourself. Completely become hearing and ear, and wear this sun ruby as an earring. Work. Keep digging your well. Don't think about getting off from work. Water is there somewhere. Submit to a daily practice. Your loyalty to that is a ring on the door. So keep knocking, and the joy inside will eventually open a window and look out to see who's there. You that come to birth and bring the mysteries. Your voice, thunder, makes us very happy. Roar, lion of the heart, and tear me open.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much, Paul. But lovely. I think that spirit of love and oneness. And, I think sometimes that love and oneness and peace is a controversy. I definitely think that. I think peace is a controversy. War is common. It's, challenge each other, be different, and don't accept, and always tell each other where they're wrong. Don't embrace. I think that's kind of like the norm, and I challenge everyone to move towards peace and to reinvent a cultural norm that's more embracing of peace rather than war.
Rabia, that is so, so beautiful. Thank you, everyone, for all of your shares. I thought I was just sitting here and listening, and it was like so peaceful, I think, to listen to everyone. But yeah, Rabia, what you said about embracing and what all the culture is about, it's also about I am right, I am right and you are wrong. The boundaries that it's me, and they cannot accept that maybe we both are right, or it's not about being right or wrong. Embracing acceptance, and that just was really helped me to understand this whole conflict that we internally face sometimes with religious views and spirituality. Is just acceptance of the other's views, as well as the conflicts that we have inside of us, acceptance of all of that. And even within one religion, there's so many different variations. Like even within us Muslims, there's so many different types of Muslims, and the judgment between each of us. Embracing all of that. This would resolve all of these issues that we all face so much. And then that the reinventing piece is personal. I think that was really powerful what you said, Rabia, that embracing is, I want to repeat what you said, embracing is accepting everyone in a different perspective, and reinventing is personal. What you do, your journey, your beliefs, the way you want to live, that's your personal journey. And, I've had my share of struggling with this my whole life. It brings it all together. So yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now.
Or maybe Paul can share another song while we think of something to share.
I've been waiting, just like with Like feverish anticipation to share the first song I ever heard by him. Yeah, yeah, Jo Halka Halka. Yeah, and that song, the lyrics, as best as I can find translation in English, are just perfect obliteration of desire of a lover. And this is, like I said, the very first time someone ever played me Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. And it starts out thinking like, oh, this is like a pop song, but then, oh no, here it goes. Ah. Okay, I don't know about
Wow,
you. I'm all out of cash.
that's great. Well, that was so good. Thank you so much. And if we were in a mehfil, which is, where we have these gatherings, they're called mehfils. And what happens in these mehfils is that you would have a lot of cash tonight because people just throw their money at you in
Yeah.
these gatherings. They're so beautiful. It's a must attend, and perhaps we will figure out how to have one of these gatherings together. We can arrange it as a part of this reinventing cultural norms where we gather and we embrace these differences.
It was a
So
great first date for me with the music I had never heard before. And after that, I was hooked and I had to get everything I could.
amazing, amazing. So thank you so much for playing that. This embracing of each other through music. I think music is a great way to embrace each other, the differences, because it reunites. We connect on the lyrics, not on the how and the what, but just on the is and the be. Yeah, so any thoughts? Anyone else would like to share anything? Darby, I saw your mic unmute. I would love, love, love to hear more.
I have a poem I wanted to read.
For sure. Please go ahead.
This is a Rumi poem. I am thine and thou art mine. Eternal life is gained by utter abandonment of one's own life. When God appears to his ardent lover, the lover is absorbed in him, and not so much as a hair of the lover remains. True lovers are as shadows, and when the sun shines in glory, the shadows vanish away. He is a true lover to God, to whom God says, I am thine and thou art mine.
That is beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
I was actually introduced to Rumi by my babysitter when I was 3 years old.
That's amazing, Darby. Thank you so much for sharing the poem and also for sharing that story with us because, when you shared your poem, it reminded me of a poem of Rumi's that really speaks to my heart as well. I think each of Rumi's poems are like a build on. It's like layers of resonance. Actually, I had made a little album, and this was one that I had included in that album. It's lovers don't finally meet somewhere. They're in each other all along. So there's that symposium. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with the symposium by Plato. And it's about a tree that's split into two, and each of the parts of that tree have two arms and two legs. But when they finally meet, they come together, and it's like there's this completeness, this, that they just feel like it's one. That one symposium by Plato and all these Rumi's songs really helped me to reinvent cultural norms because it meant defying many norms to embrace a lot of love and the shared differences, but also the shared unity. And I think that is so important.
I love it so much. I did want to share, maybe you guys already talked about it, but one of the other songs that I really enjoy, and it was also, I think, in Bend It Like Beckham, which is Tere Bin Nahi Lagta. So that's a song that I really love. I believe it's by Nusrat. One of the things that was really beautiful growing up the way that I did is, there's certain things that are really universal, and I felt like music, food, and dance, like there's no language needed. It just immediately bonds people. And I know that for me, food is like one of my love languages. So that was another way to connect with people. And there was nothing to do but to just share and enjoy. So that's something that I love in our practices.
And that is such a big part of Eid, all the food, and we embrace the food and just feasting, feasting, feasting. I think feasting is definitely a love language. So beautiful. Thank you so much for that, Benita. And hello, 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 my dearest Roma. How are
Rabia,
you?
I made it to 29 days of fasting, which is amazing in my book for the first time.
Wow,
Um,
that's amazing.
yeah, it's just somehow, you follow one day after another day and and then studying the whole Quran with translation. So I was on a mission for 30 days, and Eid was the last drop, where you have to show up at 7 in the morning for Eid
Hmm.
prayer. And after that, I was dead. So I passed out
Well,
after that.
amazing. Well, congratulations. Eid
Yeah, thank you.
Mubarak.
Thank
And
you.
so proud of you. I'm sure you're proud of yourself as well.
I'm
I've had,
shocked. How did I
um,
do it?
I think it's all about mindset. You know, you are one
Yeah,
of those people that talk about mindset. And I think it
yeah,
is mind over matter.
yeah, yeah,
It's that taking that decision that I'm going to do something, and one step at a time, anything is possible.
yeah. And you don't think about how it's going to happen. You just keep doing it.
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah,
This year, for me, my idea of Ramadan, and I know it's not the traditional way of looking at things, but the way I took it this year was more about a cleanse. And I think
yeah, yeah. True.
And I took it as a cleanse, and I thought of it as my mind had a reset. There was
Mm,
this abstinence from certain types of thoughts, certain types of actions. And I just wanted to do a reset. And that's where I was this year.
yeah,
Um,
yeah,
Next year, I don't know where I'll be. I'll take that decision as it happens. But I'm proud of you. I know it's not easy, especially you're saying it was one of your that first attempt. So kudos to you. I am so happy.
There's always like few missing, 4 or 5 days at least are missing. But this year I was just fascinated how it happened. It was easy. It
Mm.
didn't even feel difficult.
That
So I think there's a greater calling behind that too. God is calling us to do something here, you know?
mm.
And I'm really trying to pay attention to that because regardless of the survival and all the issues, there's a greater calling. So,
I agree. I think there is, and I think humanity is a greater calling.
yeah, yeah,
I think it's embracing the change, it's embracing each other, it's offering love. And I do think that when we fast, I think there is a lot of compassion and understanding for those that don't have food to eat, that we get to experience empathy.
yeah.
And empathy can rarely be experienced, but I think fasting does offer us empathy.
Absolutely. This is really great topic you have, embracing and reinvent cultural norms. I think it's really great that you're doing this, reinventing the cultural norms, because we have a lot of cultural norms that don't make sense, that
Hmm.
are just outdated, that are just sitting on the shelf that we kind of go along with, but we really need to reinvent. So I absolutely agree with that.
So, Homa, I want to ask you a question. So, you talked about some of the cultural norms that we've parked on the shelf. What are some of those things that you think need reinventing?
Wow, I have to really dig in. Some of the things that I've been following without questioning them, women's role in our culture, how we need to succumb to everything and be submissive in so many ways. And we have so many roles that we play within the household. And those are just given roles. That you're going to do that no matter what, and there's no reward behind it, there's no understanding behind it, there's no communication. And when you feel that you are not really being appreciated, you feel like you're just slaving away for the sake of the roles that you have to play. I don't know if that comes into the cultural norms, but where these roles are kind of defined for a man and a woman, and they're just norms that you have to submit to that. And when it comes to marriage, there's a lot of cultural norms that apply that needs to be questioned. So we can open up that can of worm, and we will come up with many details. But I think to break it down, more of the roles that I have to play, and then the lack of roles that someone else is not playing, but they're just receiving that nurturing from me. So it would be nice to get the nurturing back. It would be nice to get the respect back and acknowledgement and equal rights. The one person shouldn't be so obligated to serve certain rules. I don't know, a few things are just a given. I can't think of them right away, but they're just given that we grew up with, that you had to do that. Your parents are right, or your brothers are going to do certain roles, or it's hard to come up with them right away, but we know that we've been subjected to it.
I hear you. I hear you. And I couldn't agree more. I think there are some standardized roles for men and women, and they've just sort of perpetuated over the years. And whether they're right, wrong, whether they're healthy, unhealthy, whether it needs to change with the times, why they're there, and why aren't we questioning them? Why are we as women perpetuating it? Why don't we say something? I definitely think Sana and I've talked about this on our first and second episode. And this is one important one about gender roles, about a lot of the discrimination that women face because of their gender and the expectation of how we're supposed to behave, what we're supposed to do. So, I've been running a nonprofit. You all know this. And during COVID, I was running 4 meetings a day because there was a lockdown. No one had anything to do. And then we had these ongoing conversations every day. And one of the conversations we had was about, and I'm talking in a very traditional sense. I know that there are lots of households that are evolved, but I'm just sharing this from a very traditional perspective, that a woman's worth is determined on how good the food tastes at the dinner table. And so it's always promoted for women to cook. And there's nothing wrong with women cooking. There's nothing wrong with men cooking. But if the meal turns out great, the value of the woman goes up. It appreciates. And I just find that so mediocre and actually insulting. And I definitely think things like that need to evolve. And we need to see women as human beings, not as someone who's going to provide a service. And the lady that I go to for my eyebrow, she was sharing with me that she has a friend whose husband, she works full time, he works full time. He comes home, and I'm talking in Canada, in this century, he lies on the sofa and she has to go into the kitchen and cook. And I think these types of gender roles have to change. I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's equal. And I think that the education isn't required for women from this culture. It's required more for the men from this culture. What are your thoughts?
Wow, this is such a big topic, Rabia. And yes, I agree with so much of what you shared. And I mean, truly, there's so much to be said that we could dig into. But I absolutely agree. There's so many things that we can kind of share and discuss and bring out in the open. And I think that's what I love about what you and Sana are doing. It's like, it's time. These things need to be addressed. They need to be talked about. And, not to say that there aren't things in terms of the other gender where they might have their own rights for things as well. But, this is really to empower a lot of women who haven't had a space or an opportunity to express some of these things, and to finally be able to be like, wow, there's an opportunity to join others who are also saying, it's time. It's time to make a change. We have to. We need to. So thank you so much for addressing some of these things.
Thank you so much for encouraging us and supporting us, and also being so open. We're inviting people to look at the possibilities that can exist if we open our mind and when we open our mind to those possibilities, because it's not going to happen just by talking about it. We do have to open our minds to it as well. So definitely, and I love it. Thank you so much. Well, my dear friends, I've got Afreen ready, and I also have your request of Kinna Sona Tenu Rab Ne Banaya. That is a beautiful song, and what it means is how beautiful God has made you. And I think that if I could say that, I am saying that to all of you in this space and the spaces that we always connect with. I think you're all just very beautiful, very, very beautiful. and special. Those are the lyrics. Kinna sona tanu, and it's Punjabi, my native tongue. Rab ne banaya. Rab, God, and sona is beautiful, and kinna is how beautiful God has made you. I speak bare minimum Urdu and Punjabi, but at least I'm able to translate that for all of you. So we're just having a light and lively room celebrating Eid and each other and, you know.
Now, before I go, I'm going to read you lyrics in English to a song and listen and see if you don't think it's harmonious. Overcome by your moving temple, overcome by this holiest of altars, so pure, so rare, to witness such an earthly goddess that I've lost my self control, beyond compelled to throw this dollar down before your holiest of altars. I'd sell my soul, my self esteem, $1 at a time, one chance, one kiss, one taste of you, my Magdalena. I bear witness to this place, this prayer, so long forgotten, so pure, so rare, to witness such an earthly goddess, that I'd sell my soul, my self-esteem, $1 at a time, for one chance, one kiss, one taste of you, my Black Madonna. I just read you lyrics to a rock song by a group called A Perfect Circle, which is an offshoot of the very intelligent heavy rock band Tool. Are they not speaking the same language?
I believe they are. I believe they are. That was beautiful. Both the Kawali by Nusrat Fateh, Afreen, Afreen. And, you know, when we're watching and listening to these concerts, there are a few phrases that we say. We say wah, wah, which means just beautiful, beautiful. Or bat khoob, mashallah. Like we just say these terms after listening to them. And as I was listening to the recording that you were playing, and I believe you were saying that it's the last time Nusrat Fateh Ali recorded Afreen Afreen, which just makes it so much more special. I was just saying, wow, you know, I was saying Baud Hoop, and that was just beautiful. So thank you so much. And that poem that you recited after, very befitting and so perfect.
But it was wonderful to share our love of transcendent spiritual music together. And to all of you, love, peace, and harmony through the groove of the soul.
Thank you so much, Paul, and hope you'll come back next Sunday. Yeah, Sana, that was for you. So maybe you want to start.
Yeah, as I was thinking of this whole concept of Qawwali, I was thinking that it's religion based as well as it is targeted towards, your loved one about the beauty and the love and everything, but it's also the love for God and the love for, I guess, prophets and all of that. So Qawwali also has like a religion based focus in it as well. That the love that it's speaking of is not just for the loved ones, but it's also for God as well. I don't know if I may be wrong, but that was my understanding of the whole concept of Qawwali.
Yeah, I am not going to dispute you. I believe you're right. I think you're right. Kawali is more of a spiritual and a musical connection to the divine, I think. And I definitely think it has a lot to do with love. And I think it is about connecting with that higher power, that higher source of beauty. And it can be seen in a person or it can be seen in a divine. And I know that if we take it to Rumi's always, he's in love with God. And he always talks about God, Rab, or his other Rab was Rabia Basri, and that's who he wrote about. And in fact, I met a gentleman many years ago, and I didn't know this, that he wrote to Rabia, and he brought me a poem by Rumi, and he read it to me. And I found it a little bit awkward, but at the same time, very beautiful because he was sharing something that I deeply love, Rumi. And in fact, my fascination for Rumi began in 2000, and I would say it was 2008 is when I first came across Rumi and started reading his poetry. And let's just go around the room. Our space is pretty open and we're talking about embracing and reinventing cultural norms.
I can go into so many areas and so many details and justified over the years. It's just not right. You mentioned something about the food and the role playing and how it's assumed that the wife is going to have to be a perfect chef, and she's also going to have to be beautiful all the time, looking good and being able to take care of the children and be a housewife, but at the same time also be doing something with herself and with her life. So there's a lot of expectations that have become the cultural norms. And even in the religion, even in the Quran, and I studied it, especially now it's really fresh. I studied it with meanings. There's a lot of respect for women. There's a lot of honor for women. And there's a lot of compensation for women. Women have a lot of rights in this religion and in this culture. And I think culture sometimes twists those rights and make them more in the favor of one person than the other. So we need to really reevaluate that and look into the religion and what it's teaching us too. Because, we can have that fear that the Quran is saying such and such and such, but when you really look at it and study it in detail, you'll see what exactly it's saying. And it's really fair. So, speaking from that angle, I think we need to really pay attention to that and define it in the accurate way instead of more of a cultural, injustice.
Yeah, and as do we. And before starting this room, actually, Sana and I spoke this evening, and we were talking about the double standard as well. And I think that all of what you just said speaks to that there's this double standard that the woman has to look beautiful, do the work, and, just be perfect. And I think definitely questionable when it comes to culture. But I do believe that the genuineness of the religion, they're two separate things. And we're not here to question or debate religion, but we definitely do need to understand and educate within our cultures of where it's being misrepresented, where it's being abused. I think that's where we're coming from. Where is it being abused and where can we correct it? I think if we talk about religion, I think that the concept and the basis of religion is humanity. And there are so many things that are misconstrued along the way. And definitely want to omit the misrepresentation. And Vanitha, what are your thoughts on what you've heard? Additional thoughts on what's been shared? Would love to hear.
One of the key things for me is empowering people and to let them know that there are other options and opportunities available when they're ready to take them on. So I think they need to hear from people like us to say that, hey, we've been through our journeys and we're stepping up and we are sharing our experiences so that we can empower other people. And that's kind of my hope and wish in all areas, not just for women, but for everybody. So thank you.
Beautiful, beautiful. First of all, congratulations on the 6 month mark. That is, a huge accomplishment. And I'm just, I can see the work that you're doing go a long way because mental health and helping people find their path, find their way, find their peace is such an important aspect of our culture and of all cultures. It's just not about one or the other. I think it boils down to humanity, and I'm just so grateful for that. So congratulations, and can't wait to celebrate with you more. And so thank you again for just being such a gentle, kind soul and so open as well. I think that's what we need with each other to make this world a more peaceful place. We can break it down into so many layers and levels, but I think making this world a peaceful place for all really begins with each of us and finding peace within, taking care of our healing, taking care of our mental health, taking care of our heart and our heartbreaks and all of those things that contribute. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Love you.
Yeah, thank you, Rabia. I think this was so beautiful. This was so much more than I thought tonight would be. Thank you so much for everyone who shared. I think this was a lot of the conversation was about religion and spirituality, and I personally learned a lot from it, as well as I think it was deeper than my original understanding. And what I was thinking of was Damdami had said earlier when she first started her share, Rabia, and she had said that when you were questioning cultural norms and now you were questioning religion and religion versus cultural norms and things like that, and that's a lonely road to go through. And that's been going in my mind since this whole time. And I just wanted to say that for my journey throughout, it was a very lonely road, and just encountering others who I can connect with, who feel the same way as I feel, who think the same way as I feel, just feels really, really good. Just knowing that. And that is the purpose of Rabia and I speaking up about this, is it is a lonely road. We totally understand that, and we see that. But the point is that there are others who are in that lonely road as well, and we want to let them know that there are others, because that has really helped me to feel like that, that I am not like an alien or something. Like, it's okay to feel like this, and these thoughts are normal, and it's okay to not feel like you don't belong in the cultural norms, or you don't feel like you don't feel to follow them. So I think that I just wanted to point out that lonely road, it is lonely, but at the same time, it's important to talk about it for all of the ones who feel lonely. And I'm very, very grateful for all of you here tonight speaking up and understanding that it's okay. I think that's just what it really is, boils down to. It's okay. The support is not really needed, but it's good to have. It's good to hear it. It's good to hear that others agree with you, even though it shouldn't be. But it's so nice to hear that, it's just always, always very reassuring. So that's how I'm feeling tonight. So thank you everyone for sharing what you shared. It was beautiful. Eid was beautiful. And so for all the celebrating, Eid Mubarak.
Yeah, thanks so much, everyone. Sana, just beautiful what you just shared. Belonging aspect of not feeling alienated and wrong, and just having that company that accepts and understands and not judge and not make you feel like an outcast. And also the point that you made that it's not a necessity. It just helps. It's a nice to have, not a must have. And when we receive it, when we're amongst the people that give us that nice to have, I think that's what belonging is about. That acceptance, that embracing. I think that embracing that we talk about is about belonging. And we don't have to be from the same religion. We don't have to be from the same culture. We don't have to be from anything or any aspect, but it's just about connecting as human beings, having shared experiences and pure acceptance. And I think I embrace all of you tonight as we reinvent culture, as we reinvent the things together, because reinvention requires all of us together. We can't do it alone. We can do it in our world and for ourselves alone. But if we want to make a greater impact, if we want to help a lot of people, which I believe that everyone in this space has that at the core of their hearts, making this world a better place for all, helping those that suffer from mental health, be it depression or anxiety or loneliness. We had a room on loneliness a little while back, which was just beautiful. And I think that if we can just show up and share our thoughts and just give each other some love, compassion, understanding, empathy, kindness, support, and a feeling that we belong, I think this world is already becoming a better place because of everything you all are doing. And if we continue to do it together, I'm sure we'll make it even better. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I love you all. Sana and I love you all. And we look forward to sharing many more spaces together.
We talk about South Asian culture, but really they do affect all cultures. There are differences because of culture, but really, if you look at the root cause, it really is the same in all cultures. And so it does relate to everyone. So please listen in. It's a great conversation that we are having.
Yeah, beautiful. So definitely, please, everyone, follow us on our podcast. And please download the episode. That makes a huge difference for us. I have one more request. If any of you are in the Atlanta area coming this June, I will be speaking at the You Are Worthy Summit in Atlanta from June 28th to June 30th. If you're in the area or if you would like to be there, please do click on that link. It's a summit. I am going to be talking about how your self-worth determines your net worth. And it's a You Are Worthy Summit in Atlanta. And if you use promo code Rabia, there is a discount, $100 discount for that. And I would love, love, love to meet you in person and spend some time with you. And the Rabia and Sana show, we are also going to have one event. Sana is going to be there as well. And we will have one event for us all just to connect. It's going to be the second Eid as well. So it would be just amazing to have, just an in-person conversation like we're having tonight, but just face to face and over dinner and drinks. I think that would be so amazing. So if you could join us, it would really, really, really make our year.
Thank you so much, Rob. I just want to quickly pass it around the stage if anyone has any closing thoughts. Okay, Vinita, any closing thoughts from you?
Yes, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you both, Rabia and Sana, for this beautiful space, amazing conversation, and for everything that you both are doing. Because, as they say, it takes a team of people, and I feel like we're all leading the way to help elevate and take everyone together so we can all nurture each other. So I'm super grateful to be connected to you and for the beautiful spaces that you're creating. And happy early birthday celebration week, Rabia. And I will look forward to connecting with you all soon. Thank you again so much.
Thank you so much, Vinita. And right back at you. Thank you so much for everything that you do. Thank you for your support. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for all the compliments. And so moving on to Homa.
Just looking forward to your next rooms and your podcasts and everything that Rabia is doing. Love to hear you soon and join you soon.
Thank you so much, Huma, and thanks for sharing. Thank you, everyone, again for joining and listening in. We are here every Sunday nights talking about this topic of reinventing cultural norms in the Rabia and Sana Show podcast house. Please follow us on Instagram. Please check out our podcast on Apple and Spotify and everywhere that you can listen to podcasts. And we look forward to more of these a controversial topic. Have a really good night and have a great week.
Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Please rate, subscribe, and review wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow the Rabia and Sana Show on social medias.
Remember, you can watch the video version on YouTube, and don't forget to share, like, and subscribe.
If you want life coaching services or you are reinventing cultural norms for yourself and think you would be a great guest and want to be on our show, please email contact@therabiaandsanashow.com.
And be sure to check out our next episode. See you next time.
See you next time.